Hey friends, Ken here, your thrifty apprentice, and today we are exploring something a little different. Today we are going to be playing around with water-soluble drawing inks. Drawing inks are water-based media made from various plant and mineral colorants. Any given ink may vary in tone due to the purity and concentration of its ingredients and its degree of dilution. Historically, drawing inks are commonly hues of brown, reddish brown, gray, and black. Beginning in the late 19th century, synthetic, chemically produced colorants dramatically increased the range of hues available to artists. Traditionally, inks share certain properties with watercolors and can be made with comparable materials. However, watercolors always contain solid pigment particles. Inks, by contrast, can be composed of dyes and are of low viscosity, allowing them to flow smoothly from a pen. Before the invention of the steel nib, fountain, and felt tip pens in the 19th and 20th centuries, artists used broad and narrow quill and reed pens. Ink may be applied with a pen or a brush to achieve either linear or tonal effects. Inks may be diluted to produce larger washes, brighter areas, and highlights may also be achieved by scraping ink from the paper. So friends, let's take an adventure in babysitting and set out to use these water-soluble inks like they are watercolors. Now, I have no idea how this will turn out, but I must try this to see if the inks will fit into the way I create. Now, I'm aware that this is not the normal and probably not the recommended way to use this product. However, you know me, I am always going to experiment to see just how far I can take things when it comes to art. Now, to make things easier for myself, I did remove a few colors from the complete set to limit my palette. Plus, I knew limiting my would only aid in creating color harmony as I continued the composition. I decided to pull out somewhat of a mixing set, and I'm using this sunflower as my yellow, crimson as my red, cobalt blue as my blue, burnt sienna as my brown, and will also be using a dip pen and its ink to ink my project towards the end. I felt like this gave me a pretty rounded set of colors to work with. One thing I noticed, and is the case with most ink-based products, is that the color is super saturated and bright. I should say that this set of drawing inks do have a shimmer to them. There is an added mica product that allows a shine to show through in the color. Although I have to admit they aren't really that shimmery in my opinion. Now, this could be due to the fact that after shaking the ink bottle, the mica will resettle at the bottom of the bottle pretty quickly, versus remaining suspended throughout the liquid as you paint. With that said, my finished product won't have that much overall shine to it at all. Now, for this composition, I did settle on using synthetic round brushes by Artigra and 100% cotton, 140-pound cold-pressed watercolor paper by Lightwish. I did go ahead and transfer my image onto the watercolor paper I am working on today, and I did make a traceable that will be available to Creation Station level members of the Thrifty Patreon art community. Now, the approach I took was just as if I was tackling this painting with watercolors. The first thing I wanted to do was to get everything covered with this first layer of color. I started with the leaves using both the sap green and sunflower mixed for the base layer, and then mixing sap green and cobalt blue to create the darker green for my shadows. I will say that much like liquid watercolors, the inks blended together really well, and I had absolutely no problem getting secondary colors or with achieving whatever color I was trying to mix. The inks actually blend superbly. They also allow me to mix on the paper pretty easily. However, these are inks, so they stain pretty quickly and are rather hard to lift at all after you have allowed them to dry. For the flower petals, I'm using the Crimson Mass Tone as my mid-tone color and then blending it out across the rest of the petal with water to create my lighter tone. With this technique, it was important to tackle each petal one at a time. This was helping to prevent color from bleeding any place I didn't want it to be at any given time I didn't want it to be there. Using this method made it easy for me to jump around on the composition, working on one part while giving a previously painted part a chance to dry. When painting the biggest petal, I am being sure to wet the petal really well. It is important that I use the wet into wet technique here to get the color to spread inward naturally as I added the color to the end of each petal. After blending, you can easily see your light and mid-tone colors pretty clearly. For the center of each flower, I am simply wetting the area, then dropping in the sunflower color, letting it flow throughout the wet area. For the shadow, I dipped my brush directly into the burnt sienna and added it towards the bottom of the stamen area while it was still wet, and this would give the colors a chance to blend seamlessly. When it comes time to add in the shadow color for the petals in the extreme middle of the flower, I am simply mixing the crimson and cobalt blue until I get a tinted version of the mass tone crimson used to lay the foundation color of the petals. Now, this is the first time I have switched from the wet into wet technique to the wet on dry technique. My mission is to keep the dark color centralized in the flower and then to let the color trickle to the end of the petal using dots and dashes to add the detail. Painting dry on wet guarantees that my colors stay bright and that my lines stay crisp. At this point, I have moved on to my dip pen and ink. Like all other products I am using, the pen is pretty new to me. Yet, I am finding that it works super well for my inking. Well, after getting the hang of it anyway. All the rest of the details for my flower will be added using the dip pen. I honestly have to say that I learned a lot more than I knew before about creating with inks. Trying a new medium and painting a composition I have never attempted before pushed me outside my comfort zone, and as far as I'm concerned, that is one of the quickest ways to grow on your artistic journey. This was honestly been super fun for me to tackle. Now at this point, friends, it's time for you to let me know what you think. Jump in the comment section and let me know what's on your mind about today's content. Have you ever used inks in this way? And if so, how did it work out for you? I would really like to know. Please feel free to sprinkle a little love and give the video a thumbs up. And if you choose to, please share, for it's caring, and maybe it will touch someone else who may just want to join our amazing art community here. If you are new or returning and haven't subscribed, please consider doing so and hitting that notification bell so that you don't miss when we upload or when we go live. You can check the video description for all of the relevant links, and do consider joining us over on Patreon. In the meantime, be sure to check out the suggested video at the end of this one, and remember to just keep creating.